Hi everyone. Today we are here with Dr. Soumya Sarint, a specialist in pediatrics and neonatology at Medcare Hospital. Hi, Dr. Soumya. So, given persistent misconceptions and propaganda among some of the general public, for example, the incorrect belief that influenza or other routine vaccination could lead to autism, how do you address such fears when counseling parents, and what evidence-based arguments do you emphasize to reassure them?
Actually, we used to say, like in a funny way, it is very easy to treat children. Okay, it's a very easy thing. But the biggest challenge we are facing is to treat the parents. Treat, I would put it in inverted commas. Because if a child is coming with fever, just by like we will be examining the child. Usually, after examining, we will be reaching to a conclusion. Okay, it can be a viral thing because the child looks okay. So, we will be counseling the parents regarding the symptomatic management. There are two types of parents. Some of the time, whenever we are suggesting a treatment, they will always question. If you are telling them your child needs an antibiotic, they will always argue antibiotic is not good for health, antibiotic will cause this, antibiotic will cause that. And whenever we are saying your child doesn't need antibiotic, it's just a viral thing, then they will say, no, doctor, you should write antibiotic because what if this is a
Right.
bacterial thing, okay? In that way, because whenever we are asking them, they always say, no, we Googled or we searched in ChatGPT with the symptoms. And ChatGPT is saying this can be this can be that. So they are believing all this ChatGPT, Google more than us doctors. So it is very difficult to convince them, to make them understand. And actually, we have to spend more time in that aspect. Okay. So nowadays it is very easy to treat the children, but the rest of the part is really challenging. But we have to move forward like these things, no, like we cannot say you should not Google, you should not search in Chat GPT or they will do it. But the only problem is like nowadays it is even difficult to prescribe paracetamol. Whenever we are giving paracetamol, they will even ask us, doctor, we read that paracetamol causes liver and kidney damage. Then it is our responsibility to make them understand paracetamol is a drug which we use very safely. It has a therapeutic range, it has a dosage. If the dosage is going 6 to 7 times than recommended, then only it will cause these type of damages. So nowadays it is a little bit difficult thing to treat patients.
So, what emerging trends or patterns do you see in pediatric illness in the region over the past 3 years? You have been here like 3 years.
Yeah.
What kind of pattern you have noticed among the children?
Pattern means like here always there is a wave. Okay, sometimes when just before the start of winter there is an influenza or mycoplasma outbreak. That is like a routine thing. But what I feel is like in our country, for example, in India also, these kind of outbreaks are always there. But we are not doing all these tests. Here, actually, we do a lot of tests. We do influenza testing and we do mycoplasma testing because investigations, like we are investigating a little bit more here. Okay. But in India, maybe because of the resource limitations, like we are not doing a lot of tests. No. And this insurance culture is not that much prevalent in India. Okay, so most of the patients are self-pay patients. So we limit the investigations to the minimum. But here, maybe because of the medico-legal issues, like maybe because of the parental concerns, we do a little bit more of investigations. Maybe that is the reason we get to know a lot regarding the diagnosis. And allergies. I see a lot of allergy. Like we feel everywhere it is very neat, tidy, everything. But I personally feel the incidence of allergy is much more here. We get a lot of children with wheezing, asthma, allergic problems. That is little bit more prevalent here.
How do you approach challenges related to adolescent health, especially around nutrition, growth spurts, puberty, mental health in your pediatric approach?
That is a very relevant question because adolescence is no more the old adolescence nowadays because I have an adolescent daughter, like 13-year-old daughter. Even I am a pediatrician, I am really struggling as a parent because we know adolescent period is just like a roller coaster. They are facing a lot of hormonal issues, they are facing a lot of emotional problems, impulsive acts, anger, depression, peer pressure, a lot of problems. Okay, so we cannot blame them. The adolescent age group is not, they cannot compare. I have seen parents like comparing, oh, this was not like this when we were like, but never ever do that because time has changed, their pressure has changed. So right now it is really a challenge not only for the parents, for the school teachers, for us doctors. That is the reason most of the hospitals have started adolescents clinic. First of all, we have to take care of their diet, nutrition, because that is their, like they will be entering to their puberty, both girls and boys. So if you are not giving them proper nutrition diet, their growth potential can be minimized or compromised. So it is very important. Next thing is their vaccination. There are a lot of vaccines which we have to give for the adolescent age group, especially in that age group. For example, human papilloma, HPV vaccine. Okay, so it is recommended both for the adolescent boys and girls, especially for the adolescent girls, because it is very well known that it will prevent cervical cancer. So such vaccinations we have to give them. Next thing is like the emotional support and the psychological counseling, even if it is needed. Okay, most of the children, they are suffering a lot from the peer pressure, the parental pressure, a lot of things. So we see a lot of emotional problems among them, like depression, anxiety, all those things. So those things also we have to take care. So this from 10 to 18. Okay, it's like adolescent is never teenage. It starts from 10 years till 18 years. So it is the 8 years we have to give a proper emotional, psychological and health support to all our girls and boys.
There are a lot of complaints from parents that children are spending more time on screens. It is causing like development in children, like speech delay, lack of concentration, communication. How do you address these challenges, and how do you make parents aware?
We see a lot of children, especially in the age group from 3 years to 5 to 6 years, who are not speaking properly, especially after the COVID times. You know, at the time of COVID, like all of us were locked inside. Actually, that has affected the children the most, because as we know, like after 2 to 2.5 years, we will send them to the nursery, pre-KG and all. Why? That is the age group where they should get utilized with the socialization, mingling, all those things. Okay. But that got affected a lot during the COVID timing. And more than that, after the COVID also, the parents, we are very busy. We don't have enough time to spend with them. How a child starts to speak, that is very important. First, the child should hear the language, understand the language, then reproduce the language. That is a process. Nowadays, what is happening? They are hearing, maybe they are understanding also, but they don't have the chance to speak back. Okay, so they are listening to the TV, they are seeing the mobile, they are watching the laptops, and they are a lot of YouTube videos and all. So they are listening to a lot of things, and they are understanding also most of the time. But to whom they should speak back? There is no chance to speak back. So that part is lacking. So most of the time, they know. The parents are saying, they understand everything. Okay, if you are saying something, they are doing it, but they are not talking to me. Okay, so I always used to say, like, we know, like, I am also a working parent, I am also busy, but that is not an excuse. There should be people to talk to your children, interact with them, talk to them, just tell some stories, or whenever you're feeding them, talk to them. So in that way only we can urge them to talk back and to respond back. And that is very important because speech delay, nowadays we see a lot of cases. And next thing, the screen timing. That really is an evil, because I would call it as an inevitable evil, because you cannot take mobiles or laptop away from your child. Because my child is studying in 8th standard. She needs a laptop with Wi-Fi all the time, because she has to do the homework, she has to read. Everything is there in the laptop. It is not like they are not at all reading the books nowadays. Because in our childhood, we had only books. Okay, we used to write, instead of that, they are reading in the laptop, they are reading in the mobile, and they are typing. Okay, they are not even writing. So how can we take all these things away from them? It is not possible. So we have to control. That is the only way out of this. So just limit the screen timing. That also is a challenging thing. Even I am struggling with that. But somehow we have to limit. We should tell them, or we should make them aware. People used to scream, people used to shout, like, or fight with them, like, or punish them. No, that is not going to work at all. Only way is like make them understand. Okay, if you are using this beyond a point, it is going to harm you, and it is going to harm your eyes, it is going to harm even your posture, your spine, and your brain. Okay, so only way is like make them understand and teach them how to self-control them from the extra screen time.
What is the one thing you wish every parent knew or did regarding newborn care or child health, but often doesn't because of misconception or social norms?
That I already told, okay? Never ever believe social media. Let it be Instagram, let it be Facebook, whatever it is, okay? Whatever you are listening, whatever you are hearing, okay? Never ever take it directly to your brain. Ask your doctor. You should have a doctor, especially for your child. You should have a doctor whom you trust. And whenever you are visiting a doctor, just try to trust them and ask questions. Always ask questions. Clear your doubts. That is your right. I always used to say, before my patient or my parents leave, I always used to ask them anything else to ask, any other doubts. Because I don't want my parents to leave my room with anything inside there, like with a doubt. Okay, they should be clear. They can always ask why we are giving this medicine, why we are giving that medicine, why we are not giving this medicine. Everything they can ask. But always clear your doubt, but with a qualified person, with a trusted person. Never ever go behind this social media.
Yeah, even if they have doubt, they should consider like maybe re-counseling other doctors.
Definitely. I would say this is not a very simple problem. I have seen parents coming at the age of maybe 4.5 to 5. Why? Without any vaccination in the past. They will come to us at the age of 4 to 4.5. Why? Because the child has to go to the school and the school will demand a vaccination card. At that moment, they are thinking about the vaccination. I used to ask them, why you didn't give any of the vaccination till now? The answer, usually they will tell the truth. As you told, they would tell like, doctor, we heard like these kind of vaccination will cause autism to my child and this will cause paralysis to my child. I saw a video of a child who got paralysis after a vaccination somewhere in the YouTube. So that person told never ever give vaccination to your child. And some people used to say vaccination is artificial. Okay, you should get natural immunity to your child. All these things are artificial. Okay, so that will just give artificial immunity. Ideal thing is getting natural immunity. All these things are unscientific things because ideally our human beings will never get natural immunity against some diseases. For example, tetanus, diphtheria, these are dreaded diseases. Once you get those diseases, you will die because there is no medicine against them. So once you get tetanus or once you get diphtheria, it's a dreaded disease with a high mortality rate. So how can you get natural immunity against these dreaded diseases? So I used to tell them, whenever we have to get some immunity artificial, we have to give it to your child. And they used to ask, doctor, like, should we give these optional vaccines? There are two types of vaccines. One is mandatory vaccine, the other one is an optional vaccine. Mandatory means you have to give to your child. That is very important, must be given vaccine. The optional vaccines are like, that is your choice. If you want to give, you can give, not mandatory. So they used to ask me like whether we have to give these optional vaccines. So I always used to tell them, if you are asking me, I have given all the vaccines to my child because I don't want my child to get chickenpox. I don't want my child to get typhoid because people used to say chickenpox, the child should get naturally. But that itself is a misconception because most of you have not seen the complications of chickenpox. I have seen children who died because of the complications of chickenpox. Because chickenpox in 80 to 90% of the children, it will just go and go back. But in very small number of children, it can go for some complications. It can affect your brain. It is called meningitis or meningoencephalitis. In such complications, they can even die. So people have not seen those complications. We doctors have seen a lot of such complications. So any kind of small viral diseases, you may call it as even influenza. For example, influenza. Even influenza can cause some dreaded complications. So as far as possible, give all the possible vaccinations and keep your child safe. So my only request to all the parents is that never ever believe the social media blindly. Always ask your doctor, confirm it, and do accordingly, and always practice evidence-based scientific medicine.
Right. I think that is all. Thank you so much for speaking with us and thank you so much for sharing so insightful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.